Tonight, we're going to talk about something a little bit contentious, and that's the idea that the Bitcoin bull market could go on for longer than we expect. I know on this channel, we've talked about the idea of an abbreviated cycle, but what about the idea that we could get a longer and less volatile Bitcoin and crypto cycle? Now, this is mainly applying to Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it will also have impacts on the large cap alts, mid cap, small caps, all the way down to the nano caps if the cycle does go on for longer. And the reasons why we're even bringing this up has to mainly do with several things. The institutionalization of Bitcoin through ETFs. We heard BlackRock come out and call Bitcoin a risk off asset. If you believe it is, it may or may not be. They said Ethereum is risk on. Feels like manipulation to me, but still we should consider that. We have about 6 or 7% of Bitcoin owned by institutions, and they keep buying up more. And we have, the diminishing returns, diminishing volatility to deal with. This is crypto simulation theory. I'm the Gaussian snake, and the ideas that I'm presenting to you here are just theories and speculations. They're not even necessarily my base case. I'm just throwing this out here for you to discuss and explore on your own. If you enjoy the content on this channel, please make sure to subscribe and join my free Telegram group for more amazing content that we post every single day. So let's go ahead and get started. We're actually going to start this video off with ETHBTC, which is the relative valuation of Ethereum to Bitcoin. And I want to point something out about it, both on the bearish and bullish side. Now, we don't know for sure that the bear market has ended for ETHBTC, but we are speculating it most likely has. So that we're coming in with that assumption. Just keep that in mind. The first bear market by Ethereum happened almost instantaneously after it launched, and it had a really nice pump that lasted for about 98 days. The second bear market for ETHBTC lasted for 287 days. So that's, almost 3 times as long. And the next bear market for ETHBTC lasted for 945 days, which is almost, again, almost 3 times as long. And that's like, almost 3 years. And this current bear market for ETHBTC has lasted for about 1,169 days, or over 3 years, or a factor of 1.25 longer than this bear market here. So you can see the diminishing volatility and how the bull and bear markets are getting stretched out. So I want to now compare this to the bull markets that ETHBTC has had, and we can kind of speculate off of that. Now look at the bull markets for ETHBTC. The first one was so brief we can barely even find it on here. So that's initial capitalization. We'll just focus on this one. First bull market for ETHBTC was 91 days. The second one was 175 days. And the most recent bull market was 805 days. I mean, that is about basically a little bit more than 2 years. So you can see that these bull markets are starting to lengthen, and it lengthened quite a bit in the last cycle. And after this really elongated downtrend, you can almost, like, let's just say that Bitcoin were to go for a factor of, like, let's say 1,100 days from this bottom. Let's say this is the bottom. What would that mean? What would that imply for when the ETHBTC cycle would end? So we'll say like 1,100 days or something like that, right around here. That would actually put the Ethereum Bitcoin bull market going all the way deep into 2028. Okay, 2028. If the Ethereum Bitcoin bull market were to go the exact same length of time that it went in the last cycle, or around that, that would put it into April of 2027. Okay. And if it were to just go like even half that length, it still puts us in 2026. So unless you think that ETHBTC is about to go on a very short bull run, I think there's some clues hidden in this metric. Like, I mean, look at this. ETHBTC started outperforming in September of 2019 and finished its outperformance in November of 2021, and just went in a downtrend ever since. If you think we're just going to bounce and die off, I think you're going to be in for a surprise. And what does this say about the crypto cycle? Because if Ethereum starts to become strong and stay strong for potentially another 2 to 3 years, even all the way into 2028, what does that mean for the crypto market as a whole? What's going on with Bitcoin? Obviously, we have to look at that next, but this is a strange situation. We're going to start out with ETHBTC, a metric that has clearly been showing extended bear markets and extended bull markets. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to Bitcoin and see what might happen with Bitcoin. What's already happening? This chart shows Bitcoin from its first creation fit to 790 weeks of data with a pretty high correlation coefficient with 3 standard deviations in either direction from the mean line, which is the orange line. What do you notice? Bitcoin has been very closely tracking this logarithmic growth pattern. Its volatility has been slowing down, and its bull and bear waves have been kind of breaking up. We saw this really start to happen in 2021 and even more so in this cycle. In fact, we only got down to the negative 0.1 during the bear market of 2022, negative 1 standard deviation from the mean. So we are spending more time close to the mean price, which keeps going up, right? Keeps increasing. Currently, the mean price is around 61K. We're only like barely half a standard deviation above that right now. Look how slow this bull run is going. I mean, compare each bull run, like compare the first one, boom, straight up. Second one, kind of extended. Third one, even more extended. And the fourth one, you can almost, if bull runs are supposed to end in a peak, in like a blow off top, then this one is kind of like still ongoing, right? Like you can almost view this whole thing as one big long fractal that maybe eventually ends in a blow off top. And so if you look at what the risk is on Bitcoin, right? Like I have a risk metric I can show you in a little bit. Bitcoin clearly has a lot of room that it can still run, right? Bitcoin right now is only at 95. Let's throw the price on here. It's currently at about $96,000. I mean, look at all this chopping. Just chop, chop, chop all the way through. Doesn't even look like we've had much of an uptrend, right? You're not seeing this like parabolic movement. What if this parabolic movement takes years to materialize? What if it doesn't really come this year? What if we don't get that $200,000 Bitcoin this year, right? What if this bull market just kind of stabilizes and it's just one really long, slow grind to like 300,000 or $400,000 out in 2027 or 2028? I'm just making these numbers up because I'm not really sure what the prices would be at that point that would be acceptable in terms of risk. But you kind of catch my drift. What if a blow off top does eventually come, but it just takes a lot longer than it's taken in the past? Think back to what I said about the ETH Bitcoin bull and bear markets. Look at the Bitcoin bull and bear markets as well. They've also gotten longer. And look at the logarithmic growth, how slow it's become. Like, I really want you to focus on this compared to any other time in history, 2016, 2017, 2018. It's really starting to flatten out. And that is being caused by the slowed down volatility of Bitcoin. Okay. So if I overlay Bitcoin with a risk graph, let's see if I have one loaded up here. I think I do. Yep, I do. Let's go ahead and close that. You can see that the risk too, look what's been happening to it over time. It's been shrinking, right? The available zones for risk. So this is 2 standard deviations above the mean right now. That's saying that the highest Bitcoin would go this cycle is around 200K. And maybe that does happen this year. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm just suggesting that it might not. And if we extrapolate this out and just keep going with it, it's going to keep narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. Let's go out into like 2026, 2027. That price is only at like 250K, right? If we go into 2028, maybe it's closer to 300K. It's going to take a longer and longer time if this risk curve is accurate for Bitcoin to get to higher and higher capitalizations. People are talking about, when's Bitcoin going to go to 1 million? It might not happen in your lifetime. It could, but it might not, right? Like Bitcoin may never go to $1 million. I think it will, but I think it's going to take a really, really long time. So looking at this risk curve, like how far are we away right now in terms of a percentage or measured move from the top of it, which we've hit every single cycle? Currently in February 2024, we're still a good 110% away from the top of the risk curve. And we're kind of rolling over right now. We're prolonging a little bit more. Are there any metrics to suggest that this, slowdown we're in is going to end soon, or that, maybe we're going to, pick the bull market might pick up sooner than we think. Like, are we going to stay above this 1/2 standard deviation line? Are we going to fall below it? Like, obviously, I don't know the answers to those questions, but we're currently only at a Bitcoin risk of 58 in a bull run that's truly been going since January of 2023. So our bull run has already technically been going for over 2 years. Okay. Now, by the 4-year cycle theory, we would expect the bull run to end sometime this fall in like September, October, right? And that's what everybody's saying. And the bull run's going to end at the end of 2025. And when people get really confident about things, about cycles, that's usually where they end up being proven wrong. So I'd like to keep an open mind that this bull market could go on a lot longer than people think. The halving is a significant event, but the effect of the halving keeps diminishing with each cycle. I think we could see a lot more sideways movement than what we're used to seeing in this particular bull market. As you can tell, like that's been the kind of prevailing momentum. When you look at Bitcoin on a quarterly time scale, what do you notice? You can see that logarithmic regression playing out. Look at all these green candles and just 2 red quarterlies. Bunch of green candles, and then a little mix of red and green, right? A little mix of it into that 2017 blow off top. And then look at this mix. It's just like, doesn't this just look like one gigantic consolidation zone that's been going on for a long time? Right? We did have a big green candle here in 2021, but it pales in comparison to some of these earlier ones. So we definitely see the cycle slowing down even when zooming out like this. This is the ADX and DI on the monthly for Bitcoin. Look at how it has just been starting to contract over time. Like it's really been diminishing. The ADX only on the monthly only got up to a trend strength of 42.61. Overall trend strength at the time was 50.19, right? So it's just getting weaker and weaker each time. It almost looks like it's topping out around here for the entire cycle, right? Whereas before it was like a quick trick up, a quick trip up, fast trip down, quick, and this just seems like one elongated trip down. Like you can interpret this in so many different ways. To further illustrate how quickly cycles can be elongated, look at the bull and bear cycles for gold over time. Like if you go back to 1969, this is on a quarterly scale. I mean, we can make this monthly if we wanted to. It might be a little bit better to get monthly data. Picture will look fairly similar. You can see how initially you get these like really strong uptrends, right? Going from 1970 to 1975, you get a bear market. It was about a year. Then we had a really parabolic blow off top going from 110, and 8xing. This was in a matter of just 3 years. And then look what happened. What happened to gold? Just kind of went range bound, and formed this really long bull flag that lasted for decades before taking off again into a much, much slower bull market, right? It came down a little bit and, formed like a cup and handle. And now we're going back off, back up again. But just look at the long pause. Like this is how quickly things can change with regard to the volatility of the growth. Look at Microsoft stock, right? And you can see the initial early capitalization period in the late 80s was very quick. We had accumulation for another couple of years and then a bull market that lasted till about 92, kind of chopped a little bit more. And we got to the, right before the .com. And then there was just this really long accumulation period with, of course, the bear market from the GFC. I mean, this lasted super long. Microsoft didn't take out its highs from the year 2000 until roughly 2004. No, actually, it looks like even later than that, 2016. Okay, and then it finally went on a run again, and now it seems to be potentially in some kind of accumulation. We don't know where the top of Microsoft is or if it's going to go higher, but these accumulations, they get longer and longer each time. And if you think Bitcoin acts like a tech stock, or is going to, because it's getting institutional money, we're sort of expecting that to happen potentially, then I would expect the bull markets for Bitcoin to last longer and be less volatile, and for Bitcoin to have really long accumulation periods. We could be in one such situation right now. It's possible that we're just in an extended bull market as a result of this increase of institutional money. Now, we only have 67% institutions owning, but this stuff can pick up steam really, really quick. We can even take a tech stock like NVIDIA, for instance, and let's look at a series of measured moves in its bull markets. So if we look at the first bull market from, like, we'll just say around late 1999 to March of 02, we're talking like a 16x move over a 900 and, let's say, roughly 1,000-day time period. If we look at its bear market bottom in April of 03 to its bull market top, that was almost twice as long, almost 2,000 days for a 14x. And we look at its current situation, so coming out of this bear market and going on a run that's still ongoing, this is like 6,000 days. Of course, over that time period, we're seeing a 100 and 1046x, like this insane movement. So, but it happened over a very, very long time. So with NVIDIA, obviously we have the AI narrative that propelled this thing to new heights. So tech stocks can take on sort of a mind of their own. But yeah, like in the beginning, though, it was definitely following, like, you see how the cycles, though, are lengthening even with a tech stock, right? You're still getting very bullish movement coming from like 15 cents all the way up to, just short of $200. It's insane. But yeah, that's maybe not the best example, but you can see that it just took longer to get to the highs, and NVIDIA had to grind for a lot longer before it started to reach these heights. I mean, if you want, again, you could say, well, maybe this might have been like a little bear market here, and if you did go with that, you're still talking like a 45x. This was a remarkable move. This looks like one big long accumulation phase. Okay, going back to Bitcoin, because I think the comparison to tech stocks can only go so far. Just trying to make a point about diminishing volatility and diminishing returns. But if we look at like the bull and bear bubbles in the average sentiment oscillator, you can see that we're currently in a bull bubble. This is on the monthly time frame. Strength is declining. But I found this kind of interesting. I use a lot of the same metrics repeatedly because I'm quite familiar with them. This is the money flow index oscillator volume profile. And it shows some pretty significant cycle tops in history. Like, for instance, April of 2013, we got to peak overbought conditions. November 2013 was a lower high on overbought. And you can see pretty significant bottoming process, January, August 2015. Again, topping processes, August and December of 2017, we just gradually made our way up to oversold. March of 2021, you can see that November 2021 was just a higher, was just a lower high. Peak oversold happened in December of 2022. Now, what's interesting is we hit peak overbought in March of 2024, nearly a year ago, and we've been kind of flagging ever since. So like this run up in like November, December just took us to a lower high. And so what if we're forming like a bull flag here, like for Bitcoin, and we're about to go back up again, maybe towards the end of the year or something like that into 2026? I'm not implying the way the video started out, I'm not implying that this bull market, like this ETH Bitcoin went 1,000-something days in its bear market, that this bull market for Bitcoin has to last for, another few years. I'm just basically trying to open your mind to the idea that hanging on to the 4-year cycle theory, while tempting and while it's worked out for the past few cycles, may not work out so well this cycle, as Bitcoin experiences a decrease in overall volatility and increased institutionalization. And you're seeing that happening, with Ethereum. I think it's just a matter of time before BlackRock declares that risk off as well. I think they'll wait till they get their share of the pie and the price goes up. But yeah, I think that, and then also having countries form strategic Bitcoin reserves, I think all this is going to have an effect on stabilizing the space, which is a really good thing for Ethereum as well, and some of the more serious altcoins. But I think it's just ultimately going to stabilize Bitcoin price and make Bitcoin price become relatively boring for longer periods of time, with less substantial drawdowns than in the past. I don't think you're going to be seeing too many 70% to 80% drops by Bitcoin. You could see 50% drops. Maybe in a really, really bad situation, a 60% drop. But the point I'm trying to make again is just to be flexible and open-minded to the idea that this cycle could last longer than you anticipate. And people are usually wrong, right? They just expect the past to repeat itself. And while it certainly could, and we could see a cycle top in quarter three, quarter four of this year, like everybody is thinking is likely, that may not happen, and we may see longer periods of consolidation and boring price action than what we're used to seeing. And Ethereum's bull market this time around could actually be quite significant for the Ethereum ecosystem, given how long it could potentially last. And we may be seeing some decoupling happening. One other thing I wanted to show you too is Bitcoin dominance. Kind of what's been going on with that too is it seems to be this like oscillator that's converging right over time. Like this is the longest Bitcoin dominance bull market we've ever had. These are monthly candles, like very strong monthly candle that we just had, taking us all the way to the 786 fib. So I think you're going to see dominance. I don't think you're going to see dominance necessarily just drop and plummet like it has in the past. I think it might be a slower bleed down as Ethereum kind of gradually makes its way in. So, while these are not the most organized thoughts and the comparison to certain tech stocks is probably not the best idea, I hope you can kind of understand my thesis for potentially elongated cycle. I know that the idea of a lengthening cycles has come up in the past, and I really don't want to like resurrect that beast from the dead. But at the same time, it would be foolish to not acknowledge that things are a little bit different this time with the institutionalization of crypto. And as crypto potentially gets regulated down the line, that should make the asset class even less volatile than it is now. So, yeah, just being open-minded to different thoughts. This is, again, not necessarily my base case just yet. I mean, we still even need to see if ETH Bitcoin has bottomed. And just because ETH Bitcoin has shown ferocious strength in the past doesn't mean it will again this time. It could, things could be different. We just don't know exactly what's going to happen. But you got to put these ideas out there so that when things happen that go against your expectations, you're more prepared. Interested to hear your thoughts on, the ideas presented in this video. Let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed the content, and go and follow me at the Crypto Simulation Theory Telegram for more discussions like this and to learn about, latest projects that are coming out and things like that. So otherwise, I'll see you next time. And this was not financial advice, just a reminder. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.